So a couple months ago, I ran into a friend who's pretty into photography. I should say, she's pretty into all the latest and greatest photography gear. Who isn't, right? This person's a little later in life, has done pretty well in their career, she's got a bunch of money, and basically bought her way into having pretty much all the equipment needed to do almost any type of studio photo shoot. Good for her, nothing wrong with that. But the last time we were speaking, she said something to me that didn't really make sense and didn't really jive well with me as someone who's really getting into photography and loves it. It's a passion of mine. What she said is something that I think many people have as a misconception about photography. And that's what I'm gonna be talking about in this video. So when I bumped into her months ago, this was in the summer, I just told her that I'd recently bought a new camera. This camera, the one I'm filming this video on, my Fujifilm X-H2S. I was excited. This thing's a beast. I absolutely love it. I was so excited that I got it. And the reality is, this is probably the most high-end camera I'm gonna be using for like the next 5 to 10 years. This is it for me. So naturally I was excited. I started telling her about it, and her response really left me a little bit confused. It's kind of weirdly passive aggressive. She basically just said, "How many megapixels does it have?" My response was, I don't know, like 26, something like that. Not something I find super important when I was buying this camera. And her exact response, I don't remember, but it was pretty weird. It was almost snobby in a way. She felt that 26 megapixels was definitely not enough, and that having bought a cropped sensor camera, I was making a huge mistake in my future as a YouTuber, photographer, creative entrepreneur, whatever. And keep in mind, this is coming from someone who's just spent probably $50,000 on a bunch of full frame camera bodies and all this fancy equipment. That's kind of the view she had, which was weird to me. An example is she really thought that the image quality for photography with my camera would be noticeably inferior to her Sony A7iii. This was like such a weird thing to me because honestly, both of us, regardless of the gear we have, we're amateur photographers. We're like at the beginning of our journeys. And this really made me realize that anyone, even the biggest photography noob, if you're spending like 50K on photography gear, that doesn't immediately make you a pro photographer, and that doesn't immediately evolve your mindset on the camera equipment you're using. Because honestly, I'm of the opinion that both her and I, at that point in time, were probably nowhere close from a skill set and experience perspective to squeeze out the maximum performance out of either of our cameras, either my Fujifilm X-H2S or her Sony A7iii. So I really wanted to talk about this because it's crazy to me. Like, I remember like 10 or 15 years ago, cameras like the Canon EOS 5D was literally the shit. It was the best camera you could get for, wedding photographers were using it. It was so expensive. It was amazing. The Canon 5D was a full frame DSLR. It was a professional camera. A camera that only has 12.8 megapixels. Crazy, right? 12.8 megapixels was industry leading not so long ago. In comparison, this friend that I'm telling the story about, her A7iii, has, I believe, 24 megapixels. It's double, but does that mean that the image quality she's getting out of her A7iii is twice as good as what you could get out of a Canon 5D? Absolutely not. Yes, you have double the megapixels now, but unless you're blowing up massive prints, you're really never going to see a difference. Seriously, you really will not see a difference. And here's a helpful little chart I found that illustrates this topic. It basically shows the resolution of your camera sensor, the size of a print, and at what point you get like a drop off in quality. So on this chart, any square that's purple is considered superb, 200 or more PPI. Dark blue is excellent, 150 to 199 PPI, and light blue is what they call better, 100 to 149. The Canon 5D would slot in right here, around that 12.7 megapixel area. Based on this, you can produce 16 by 20 prints at the highest quality range that this chart measures, and 16 by 24 prints at that excellent quality level, and then up to 24 by 36 inch in the better range. With a 24 megapixel A7iii, you get 16 by 20 prints at that highest quality, and also 16 by 24 and then up to 24 by 36 in the excellent range. Honestly, look at this chart. That is not a massive difference. By no means is it a massive difference. It's minute. So you see what I mean? This is why I'm making this video. I've run into people, and I kind of was this person years ago. I'm not proud of it, but a couple camera store employees at Henry's got a little annoyed with me. But you know, you can't infatuate over megapixels, because the reality is we only need so much. That's why there's so few camera bodies that have this 100 or 50 megapixel massive sensors. 12.8 was a pro camera like 10 years ago. So, you know, you get to a certain point and we're really just splitting hairs. We're pixel peeping. That's what everyone calls it online. It's just not worth the stress. Go out there with your gear and take good photos. So I don't know, this was kind of a rant, but if you're watching this video because you want to buy a Fujifilm GFX 100 megapixel medium format beast of a camera, if you have the money, go for it, do it, knock yourself out. But it's really not going to make you a better photographer. Honestly, it's not. And it really probably doesn't matter as much as you probably think it does. Megapixels, they really don't matter as much as you think. And another thing nobody thinks about, you're shooting 100 megapixels, have fun importing those into Capture One, Lightroom, or whatever. The file sizes are gonna be massive. You're gonna need a beast of a computer. Basically, everything gets way more expensive when you take it to that level. And for people like me and this person that I'm talking about, we're not there. We don't need that. It's really not gonna affect our work. Our clients probably don't care about it. Our projects aren't gonna be negatively impacted by it. That's just the facts. So I don't know what the goal of this video was. I guess if you have a camera, use it. My thought is that practicing your photography is gonna do a lot more for you to make you a better photographer than spending 10K on a new camera body wall. Just my 2 cents. That's my rant. Duke it out in the comments. Till next time, cheers.